Prajem príjemné poludnie. Vítam vás na diskusii novej bezpečnostnej výzvy v Strednej Európe, ktorá je pod patronátom našich partnerov z Česka, organizácie Patrimonium, Sancti, Adalberti. Zdá sa, že moderátor aj hostia sú už pripravení, tak ja už len odozdám slovo Stanislavovi Janskému, aby predstavil tému aj hostí a ujal sa moderovania. Nech sa páči.
Dobrý den, dámy a pánové. Vzhledem k tomu, že naši hosti jsou ze zahraničí, tak já budu mluvit anglicky, doufám, že to nikomu z nás nevadí. So my name is Stanislav Jansky, I'm coming from Prague. I'm representing an organization called Patrimonium Sancti Adalberti. And let me very briefly introduce to my guests. On my right hand is sitting Attila Demkó. He is an well-known Hungarian expert in terms of security. He was an advisor to the Prime Minister and many other things, author of many articles and papers and some books, etc. On my left is sitting Jurij Rezanov. He's from Bulgaria. Similar heavyweight from Sofia. And as we have limited time, I will immediately go to the topics because about the speakers you can read on the website. That's not that important. So first question, or before I let's say, ask the first question. Let me a little bit briefly explain what security actually means. It's becoming many things because many people associate it with military, internal security, and they associate it with the things like army, police, intelligence service, etc. But the term is much broader because it's also about the food security, energy security, financial security, debt management, and many other things. And this is some of these we are going to address today, mainly in relationship with the Central Europe, because currently we live in very turbulent times. You can see it. We have a conflict in the eastern part of the Europe. We have some troubles also in the Western Europe, and it's something which is very obviously we have to look at it. We have some troubles also, or some, let's say, emerging countries which can make trouble in the south, and Bulgaria is facing them. And this is quite interesting because if you look at us, I'm coming from the, let's say, western part of the Central Europe, where we have neighbors who are, let's say, having very serious problems with internal security. You heard about this immigration, etc. We have a Hungarian representative. He's coming from the country who has both. He has neighbors in the west that they have this sort of troubles, and we are not sitting far away from Vienna, and so you might go to there in the evening and you will see that. But it's a country also which is facing Ukraine with all these, let's say, issues which is bringing, like not only immigration, but also like this is something which is very serious. And then we have a Bulgaria, which is contrary to the Czech Republic and Hungary, face, let's say, neighboring the sea, Black Sea. This is the region which is now, let's say, very unstable with a lot of issues, and also is neighboring Turkey, which is a country which is coming from, let's say, completely different cultural background, with some new ambitions, let's say, the leadership, which is like recalling some sort of old dreams. So, gentlemen, my first question on both of you is, if you look at the Central European region, what would be the three most pressing issues in terms of the security? Attila, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for this very kind invitation to Bratislava. It's always great to be here. Just 2 weeks ago, we were in Prague, and that was also fantastic. So thank you very much to you personally for this possibility. So generally, I would say that we have, three main problems.
Yes.
We have the problem from the east, and of course, it's called Russia. Russia is a problem, most certainly. I don't think it's black and white, so I would say that we mismanaged Russia in the last 30 years very badly, because they were very open about their limits of tolerance. And unfortunately, and very unfortunately for the people of Ukraine, we didn't listen for their warning. I was in the Ministry of Defense from 2002 to 2018, so it's 16 years. And throughout, the Russians were always telling us one thing, just don't go to Ukraine and don't go to Georgia, otherwise bad things will happen. And, we didn't listen. So we have a problem with Russia. Now it's very hard to solve. So I think trust is lost on both sides. We lost trust, I think it's very obvious why, because Russia was saying for a year before 2022 that we are not going to attack Ukraine, and they still did it. So we have a lost trust, but on both sides, the trust is lost. So we have to rebuild a kind of modus vivendi. We have to rebuild some kind of connection to Russia. Why? Because they are going to be there. We don't have to love them, and I don't think in our regions we have a lot of reason to be very enthusiastic about Russia. But they are going to be there. They are going to be a major power, and they are going to be a nuclear power. Just a week ago, I watched a movie called House of Dynamite. I don't know how many of you have watched it. It's in the case of nuclear conflict, the West is in the worst position ever. Why? Because it's not only Russia, it's also China and North Korea. You should watch the movie. We are in a very delicate situation. We have to be very careful. And again, not because we have to talk to them, not because they are nice, but because it's our interest. We have to do everything because it is our interest, not because of any sympathies. The other is the South. If you look at the news today, and I'm sorry, maybe I'm going to be long, but this is just the first answer. What is happening in Bamako? What is happening in Sudan? What is happening in Ethiopia? We have heard what Mr. Trump said about Nigeria, but there is a low-level civil war in Nigeria too, with more than 200 million people. There is a civil war in Sudan, killing tens, if not hundreds of thousands. We have a low-level civil war in Ethiopia. I just came back from Ethiopia. To the north, you can go 50 kilometers safely from the capital. And beyond that, it's the Oromo Liberation Army, and beyond that, it's the Amhara Liberation Army. They are not, and they are not 100% of their own states. They are not occupied all of it, but quite large parts of it are out of the Ethiopian state's rule. And we are speaking about a country of 130 million. Ethiopia together is 3 times the V4. And this country is extremely volatile. And they are not far from us. They are not far. So we have the east, we have the south, and it can explode. The south can explode in a very, very short time frame. Maybe it's not going to happen. But can you imagine a civil war in Nigeria? Nigeria has a population growth every year, almost the population of Slovakia every year. Ethiopia has a population growth every 2 years as the population of Slovakia. We are talking about these issues. These are numbers. These are not ideologies. These are not, beautiful ideas about human rights. These people need food. These people need a place to work. And these people don't have it because there is also a drying up of the region. I was also in Somalia just 3 weeks ago. Somalia is drying up. There is less and less space for vegetation. Some parts of Ethiopia too, and some parts of the Sahel too. And there is a third problem. I completely agree with the question. The third problem is from the West. Our neighbors on the West, Germany, France, UK, Sweden, these countries have internal problems, very big internal problems. And we based the security of Europe on common effort with the Western European countries, Eastern European countries. I'm always asking my friends in Estonia, if I have any left, who is going to defend you? The French, who are not able to defend their own streets? They are going to defend you. Are you sure about this? Or the Germans? Okay, the Germans have a brigade in Lithuania. What is the state of the German economy? Are they going to be there forever? Now we are all enthusiastic about helping the Baltics. Actually, we are helping. I think the Czechs are helping with air policing. And in Hungary, we don't get much thanks from the Baltic friends for this, but okay. Who is going to help them? Because alone, yes, the Russians are not strong, not as strong as they are depicted, but compared to the Baltics, they are strong. So they need our help, but what is happening in Western Europe? And in a way, I'm concerned about ourselves too sometimes. So I just see a picture of problems around Europe, East and South, and I see a lot of weakness within Europe. And if you put together problems and challenges and from the outside and weakness inside, you have a very bad problem. You have a very bad recipe for a future.
Georg, please, if you could address this issue. Two major issues you see from the for the
Right.
region of the Central and let's say Central and Eastern Europe, Central and Southeastern Europe from a security point of view. What is your view?
Thank you, Stanislav. Our distinguished hosts and esteemed guests and speakers, it's an honor and a pleasure of being here at the heart of Europe in the wonderful city of Bratislava. And thank you once again for the invitation and the opportunity to talk in front of you. The two main security concerns. Sure, one, of course, is Russia, the aggression in Ukraine. I believe it's a rehearsal, it's a test, and the future of Europe will not be decided from the war in Ukraine itself, but from our reaction to the war in Ukraine. If we succeed to show signs of unity, strength, devotion, community, if we show signs that we are well prepared, well armed, united, well trained, we will convince anyone else, with Putin, of course, that continuing this aggression in Ukraine in other European countries will be a very, very bad idea. So we should show the world that any thought of attacking us is a very bad idea, and it's not going to end good for anyone who tries it. We must show unity. We must show resilience, strength, and achieving peace through strength is not new. It's not something new, but it's possible, and we should do it. And most of all, we should show unity. We should not show any signs of weakness, separation, or tension between us, especially in front of our enemies. To put the things in historical perspective, decades ago, Europe was expanding and growing without any specific, so to speak, without any specific powers, without any specific efforts. Because decades ago, everyone wanted to be like us, everyone wanted to live like us, to be educated like us, to have the same healthcare system, the same civilization. And being here in Bratislava, we can easily see why. All of our neighboring countries around Europe wanted to be like Europe, wanted to be like you guys. Decades after, the situation is completely different. I agree with Attila. Turkey, for example, is a prime example of how the moods around Europe in our neighboring countries have shifted in the past decades, because the enthusiasm of becoming part of Europe, or becoming a member of Europe, has stepped back and now has been replaced by some criticism and from time to time hostility, which is not something that was recognized as a desire of becoming a European member some decades ago. Now the situation is completely different, and it's different with Turkey, with Serbia, with Northern Macedonia, with everything. Countries are not that enthusiastic in becoming part of the European civilization as they were. So the world is different. The situation has changed a lot, and we have to change as well. And in order to answer to the Russian aggression and to the ideas of other authoritarian dictators to attack Europe, we should show unity, force, and strength, and commitment to protect ourselves. We should rebuild the fortress around the European civilization and protect it on every price, because it's a treasure for the whole world. It was the prime example for the whole world, and it should be an example for the whole world again. We should protect our civilization, and with the words of wisdom from Ladislav Hanovsk himself, the philosophy of our culture, we must protect it. The second big threat, and I believe this is a far more complicated one and far more dangerous one. Yes, the illegal migration, yes, the invasion. And apart from all the military conflicts on the African continent, there was a very nice, very big article some years ago from Pat Buchanan, which was based on the UN's annual population report, which was giving some frightening numbers about the future in the next decades, which is going to come. This is inevitable. It's going to happen. So by the year 2050, the population of Africa will grow with 2.5 billion people. 400 million of them will come to Europe. They will not try, they will not dream, they will not make attempts. They will come to Europe, which means with our demographic crisis, the declining of our traditional population, that the traditional Europeans will become, in positive scenario, half of the European population by 2050. In worst scenario, we will become a minority. And this, my friends, is going to happen. And as long as the other panel before went in the constitution room, how is the assimilation going to happen? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. We have to, first of all, cut the incentives, because why are the people stimulated at all to come to Europe? Because they will pay to someone to transport them, they will pay for the smugglers to bring them in, and then they will apply for some social benefits, and they will receive said social benefits from our generous social systems in Germany, in France, Sweden, prime example. So this is why they are coming, and they are not intending to assimilate. They are not intending to accept our culture. They are not accepting to. They are not intending to accept the philosophy of our culture, from the words of Ladislav Hanus. They are only going to, and they are trying to, and they are willing to, and they will only parasite on our social systems and drain our welfare systems and cause more and more problems, because villages in Africa are disappearing and European cities are overcrowded and not safe anymore because of this ongoing process of mild invasion. It's not openly hostile, it's not a military invasion, but it's happening every day, more and more boats. So first of all, we need to rework with national legislations, of course, and with pan-European legislation, which is stuff kind of impossible to achieve so far. But we need to reinstate our social systems, cut from the social systems and detach from the social systems anyone who cannot speak the language, who is not looking for a job, who is not improving his skills and trying to be better member of society and contribute more to our societies, but only take from our societies. This must stop, and we in Bulgaria are doing a lot in this direction, and we can point at some good examples about this, protecting the borders, protecting our national identity, and everything. This does not mean that we stopped being tolerant and multicultural. We are. The mosque, the synagogue, and the church are just meters from each other in Sofia city center. We are a tolerant society, but if you want to be a part of this society, you should accept the norms of this society. You should accept the culture of this society, the tradition of this society, accept it and respect it. Otherwise, you'll be thrown out, and there's no one to blame. This is just protection of our civilization. It's not something hostile to some people coming from God knows where. So the social and the welfare system, are the issue. And second of all is the criminalization. First with national legislations, of course, and then I hope one day, God bless, with pan-European legislation, the criminalization of the whole chain of illegal migration. You transport an illegal migrant, it's a crime. You give shelter to illegal migrant, it's a crime. You hire an illegal migrant, it's a crime, and it must be punished. And if there are such national legislations, and if we succeed to make it a pan-European legislation, then we will eliminate the biggest threat. It's much bigger than the Russian one, the threat of mild invasion and of replacement of the European population with the millions and billions who are about to be born in Africa and who will naturally want to live in some place better, especially if they don't have to learn the language, gain some skills, look for a job, or do anything at all. Just take the social payments and walk around the streets. If we continue to offer that, they will continue to take it, and sooner or later, they will take all of our civilization and they will replace us. So this is the big threat that we have to address, and this is the big threat that we have to think about, work about, and fight together as a community, both on national and pan-European level, to address this threat and to eliminate this threat. Otherwise, we will just be replaced. It's going to happen.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. My take from what you said is that if we look at the institution we are today relying in terms of the security, which we are a member of, all of us, which is NATO and EU, but at the same time, we see that the countries which are representing it are actually having their own troubles. And the question, it is a serious question, can these people really defend us? So are the institutions we are having today good enough in terms of to ensure our security? It means both NATO and EU. Or should we think something like, okay, this is temporary, it's good enough, but in the future we should think about something different, because at the same time we might not be able to do something of which is let's say saying it's securing our interest, but on the other hand it's for example wants to, I don't know, continue the conflict with Russia, etc., etc. So my question is, what we have today, NATO and EU, is it good enough, or should we think about something else? Not because we want it, but because we will be forced. Because, for example, imagine, I give you the word, imagine if Americans pull out of the Europe, and they're already doing that. We see the pull out from the Romania, probably soon from the Poland, Bulgaria, etc., etc. And Trump is openly talking about it. He's saying this is your own business. And at the same time, we see that the countries like France and UK and partly also Germany, which is a new thing, saying, okay, we should take over and the conflict somehow should continue. We should maybe even send the troops, and which is something which I believe it's not in our interest as a region. So what should we do? Attila, please.
So let's take NATO and the EU to a different bracket. So if we have a hard threat meaning a military threat of military invasion, I think NATO is a good tool. It's a tool. Of course, for NATO to be effective, we need the United States. That's obvious. But no. Let's imagine a good case scenario. The good case scenario is that the EU is strong. The United States is strong inside. But there is no internal problem, and there is no problem, let's say, in East Asia. So the United States can focus on Europe. Then I think we have no threat from Russia. So the United States is so strong conventionally, but also in a nuclear sense, that Russia will not attack Europe. Hybrid, yes. Hybrid tools, yes, they use. But hybrid is different. And by the way, we also use hybrid tools in Russia. It's not one way. Our media doesn't talk about this, but we, of course, support the Ukrainian actions within Russia, not only with targeting, but with other means. Just to be very open about how this happens. But yes, there is a hybrid threat from Russia. As for until the United States is here, I don't see any real threat of Russian invasion. So in that sense, NATO does work, because the core of NATO is the US guarantee. That's the guarantee under Article 5. Not France, not the UK, not Luxembourg. That's the United States. So if we have a bad case scenario, well, the Americans are, dealing with China, or have an internal problem. I don't think it's very likely an internal problem, but we cannot, completely rule out a further polarization within the United States, which would make the U.S. like we see now with the airports and the freezing of payments to government employees. So there are problems in the United States, but again, it's not very likely. China scenario, I don't think it's very likely. So generally, I would say that with NATO we are okay. That does not mean we don't have to do more for our own defense. So President Trump gave a gift to Europe. Politico just asked me to write a few sentences what Trump changed in Europe. And one of the biggest gifts, I don't think it will fit into the final article, but or the final quote from me. But what is one of the biggest gifts to Trump? That we have to grow up finally. We have to walk on our own legs. So for so far on many things with Europeans, we talk the talk, but we did not walk the walk. Yes, we spent 10 years ago, we spent European average 1.2% on defense. 1.2, not 2, 1.2. 2014, 2013. Now we are about 2%, but it's without Trump, the first Trump administration, we wouldn't be here. And now we have this 3.5, which is, a bit like, okay, it's arbitrary, but we are going to raise defense budget and we are going to take defense more seriously. So in a sense, I think we are on a good way on that too. But this is only the hard threat. And the EU, regarding the soft threat, what my colleague talked about, where are we now? We have Chancellor Merz talking about, or even before Chancellor Scholz about deportations and this. Does it work? Do they dare to go against the NGOs, against all the legal proceedings, what they get? What these NGOs are doing to attack every government official with a lot of legal cases, just to make them tired to do anything. It's we are in a situation. We have a problem within the European. We have a European Union ruling elite which lost its touch with reality. That's the fact. So hard threats, we are okay. I think okay-ish. Soft threats, migration, the breakdown of law within our own countries, the breakdown of safety within our own countries, we are not okay. I mean, we are okay in Budapest. We are okay in Budapest. All right? We are even okay economically, whatever you read in the media. We are not good, not perfect, but we are okay without EU funds. So Hungary is functioning with a lot of EU funds cut. And I think it's a very bad example, by the way, to the Brussels elite, because the one country can show that even without you, we can survive. Not very high growth for sure, but compared to Germany, we are growing. So generally, I would say that the problem is not the hard, it's the soft threat, this boiling frog issue. Maybe I don't fully agree that it's going to be 400 million. We don't know. Let's be honest. But if we don't stop this, we're going to have such big internal problems. Such big internal problems that in some countries can lead to civil war. And that's it. It's not about helping. As I said, I just came back from Africa. I have all the sympathy for the African people, but this is not help. If we help 400 million people, what happens to the remaining 2.1 billion? We are not helping Africa with accepting so-called refugees. Most of them are economic migrants. We are helping the smuggling chains. We are helping some individuals, but not Africa. We have to help Africa in Africa. So all this is a very bad approach from our leadership in Europe. And I think we have a very big soft threat. And one more sentence on soft threat. We also have the internal division within our society, not between the new migrants, but within ourselves. If you look at how the French left and right looks at each other, how AFD and even CDU, let alone the Greens, look at each other, we are at a civil war, at least on the mindset with each other. So this is also a soft threat, that if I say something, it's already, if it doesn't fit the mainstream, you are already out. of the discussion. And that's why I was surprised that Politico asked me of anything. You're not part of the culture discussion anymore. I can say it in a cultured way that this is not good what is happening in Western Europe. So this is a threat if we don't address it. And as Europe is big, Europe is strong. For a big and strong tree, usually the threat is not from the outside, it's from within. We are rotting within. And if we don't stop this rot, this will fall. And just about our region, because it didn't answer. We are very lucky in this region because we don't have many of the problems Western Europe has. We have the divisions in our society. We are in Slovakia when a prime minister was attacked maybe a year ago, almost killed. He was told to be everything. A traitor, I think last few days, there was a big sign. He was to be visiting in a school and it was written traitor. The same we have in Hungary, that traitor, Russian puppet, whatever. And it's like everything went out of, so normal discussion is, even in our region, is out of the window. We are not talking to each other normally. And this is an internal threat. But generally, we don't have the problem with migration, or not to the level. And one good thing in Hungary, that we Hungarians, we are split half in the middle. But we agree on one thing, 70 to 80% agrees we don't want to commit the mistakes of Western Europe. So even on the left or leftish side, or the center left, which is now building a new party, I think the majority is not with accepting so-called refugees and economic migrants.
Okay, can you please comment on that?
Yes, I can. By the way, Budapest is amazing. Congratulations for your city. It's safe, clean. You feel good just walking down the streets, and basically, with what happened in the past years, it's more certain than ever that this is the heart of Europe. And this, what we see here in Bratislava, what we see in Budapest, what we see in Czechia, in Prague, this is the heart of Europe, and this is what Europe looks like, or at least looked like in our minds some decades ago. It's not looking like Marseille or Paris or the London subway. No, it looks like here. This is the heart of Europe, and we must continue fighting to preserve it, to conserve it. Yes, we detoured the Balkan route of the economic migrants from the Middle East in 2013, in 14. We detoured the Balkan route, and Hungary stopped it because it was circling around Bulgaria, going through Greece, Serbia, and so on. Hungary stopped it. They had some issues with Europe. We had some issues with Europe, but it was the right thing to do. And yes, we are humans, we are Christians, we are solidary people. But if you want to come to our countries, first, you should do it legally. And second, you should become a part of our country, not bring the third world here, because you are escaping from the third world, right? Why do you want to bring it here with you and create a no-go zone? We don't want no-go zones, and we don't have no-go zones. So addressing the migration, protecting our borders, protecting our cultural identity will become more and more important with every year to come. And I salute Hungary for doing it, Slovakia, of course, Czechia, all the countries from Eastern and Central Europe of doing so, and of opposing the woke Western ideologies and suicidal empathy, which brought all the problems in France, UK, Spain, and so on and so forth. If you allowed me to joke, once upon a time we were scared of tanks going west. Nowadays we are equally scared from influencers going east. So please don't do that. Whether we have to oppose that, and we have to spread and share our values and fight for common sense in each and every direction, because the mild invasion, the demographical replacement is happening now, and it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed with also measures of legislation. And by the way, talking about deportation, I don't like the approach of deportation, guys. Why? Because it means, once again, that someone will be spending our money and our taxes in order to arrest someone, feed him, put him in some place there where we will pay for him to stay, and then we, with you, will buy his bus tickets, airplane tickets, or whatever, and send him home. I would say if you cut the welfare and if you criminalize assisting such people, they will go on their own, such as they came. We didn't pay for them to come. Why should we pay for them to leave and to pay the bill for them to leave? So once again, I'm calling for a right-wing approach. Cut the expenses, cut the incentives, take them out of the welfare and the social state, and they will live on their own, because this is why they came. They came here for the easy money. If you cut the easy money, they will go. Why stay here? It's criminal to give you a ride. It's criminal to give you a shelter. It's criminal to hire you. It's criminal to give you social payments and welfare. How are you going to survive here? And why stay here? Go back home or go back somewhere in the third world. Don't bring the third world here. We don't want it. We want to preserve our civilization because, once again, it's a global treasure and it's a good example for the world. It's the European civilization made the world as it is today, and we have to do everything in order to protect it. So cut the expenses and they will go. I don't want to pay anyone's airplane ticket. He came on his own, he should go on his own. No social payments, no welfare, no assistance here. Cut the benefits and they will go.
Okay, thank you. I would still like to elaborate about the option if there is a need for some sort of like an B plan. Like we say, okay, the institution we have been relying on for decades are not really fulfilling their role anymore. So how should we do it? Because why I'm asking these questions, like, you always know that if there is a crisis, always the scenario is implemented which is available. That's always the case. And either we will have it or someone else will have it. And the possibility of any crisis, like, and it doesn't matter where it comes, can be from the Ukraine. Can it be some sort of immigrant explosion again? This is possible. I mean, look what is happening in Africa, but also what is happening in the Middle East, and the crisis with Iran and Israel, etc., and the very unstable situation in Syria, etc., etc. So, should we think about something Central European, at least on the, let's say, like on the political level, or some sort of discussion? Because historically we had some sort of groups like a Visegrad group, etc., which were okay, which were at that time serving certain purpose, and the purpose is not here probably anymore, or only partly, and surely is not addressing the security issues and security problems we have today. But what is your view on that? How we should start preparing for that? Should it be like only like on the level of some sort of like a secret talk somewhere or a secret cabinet somewhere on the level of the Ministry of Defense or a Prime Minister office, or should it be like some sort of political discussion or intellectual discussion? What is your view on that, gentlemen?
If I may, thank you, Attila. So thank you, Stanislav, for the question. If I might expand to the previous question, we should work on mutual joint European defense forces. And now we have the historic window to do that, because under the Democrats, it was a completely different conversation. They were unofficially saying to my colleagues on the corridors of NATO headquarters, look, stop talking about this European defense. You know, it's you are part of NATO. NATO is ruled by the United States. We pay 70% of the defense budget. We hired 70% of the administration. We want to have 70% weight in the decision making. So please stop talking about this European defense. Now, with the new administration, with the America First policies, with the American taxpayer being tired of paying bills all around the world, and showing this with their choice on the last elections, we have the historical window to work and advance in joint European defense within NATO without causing any tensions in NATO, between us and our Atlantic allies, because NATO is working, obviously. Since it's been established, no one has attacked a NATO member. Article 5 is working. The deterrence, the peace through strength, is obviously working. So yes, NATO is a successful project, obviously. There are no facts on the contrary whatsoever. But that doesn't mean that European countries should not cooperate more effectively regarding defense and especially military expenses, because from the lack of synchronization of military expenses, this is not some Brussels federalist blah blah blah. It's just what it is. There were reports regarding the ineffective military spending in the European Union for, I think, 2021. It was the last one I know about, which was estimated at around 50 billion euros annually of ineffective spending due to doubling orders or unnecessary spending or double spending on some issues. So we have a lot to achieve, and now we have the historical opportunity to do it without causing any tensions within NATO, which would be suicidal. It is, indeed. But this will actually improve and upgrade NATO, because it will improve and upgrade the cooperation between a big part of the NATO members, European countries, improve and optimize their spending, and we as taxpayers will receive more for our money, and our money will be spent better on defense. We will be stronger, we will be more effective, a lot of money will be saved, and we, all of us here, will feel safer on a better price and with stronger allies around the world.
Okay.
So I think the question is regarding our regional
Yes.
cooperation. So we have a format already called V4, and actually we worked quite a lot together in V4 in terms of defense. And we have a basis. Of course, we couldn't reach very high levels recently, since we had governments which were, let's say, not in a very good relations, especially between Poland and Hungary. But also the Czech and the Hungarian government was not on the same page, to put it mildly. But that's changing in Czech Republic. There is a bit of change in Poland with the presidential elections, and the lower level cooperation never ceased. So people say that V4 is dead, etc., etc. On a lower level, it's always stayed. When I worked in NATO, we met every week, V4 representatives. It was not very obvious to the others, but we discussed. And we still do it. Okay, it's not obvious, it's not in the newspapers, it's something. So we do talk to each other. And of course, we need to open up to others. If we want a strong central, southern European cooperation, of course, I'm not sure from the West many want it. So V4 was undermined from the West many times, because for them, for Germans, for others, this is a threat that our region start to talk with their own voice. But of course, we have to talk to Bulgaria, we have to talk to Romania, Croatia, Slovenia. So we have, and of course, the Baltic countries. I'm a bit skeptical about the Baltics, because they only think and natural about one thing. So they have one thing in mind, it's Russia. I understand, it's okay. I understand their geopolitical position, but this region is a bit different. So generally, if there is a big problem in Western Europe, we have to have a plan B, because alone we are weak vis-a-vis Russia also. I'm not sure about Poland. The Polish army, if it continues to develop like that, I think they alone can be a counterweight to Russian conventional military forces, not nuclear, of course. But still, it's better if we have a plan B. But what can we do now? Of course, politics changing, governments are changing. What we have to do is what actually you are doing in many ways. That you keep us together. We meet. We haven't met before. We have these connections, And when the time comes, if the time comes that we have to work together on an issue, either within the EU or within NATO, we can work more easily. Because I will know that person from a meeting in Prague, for example. We really had a wonderful meeting in Prague just 2 weeks ago, exact the day, today. So we have the connection. But to do more now, it's not easy because I don't think the other Donald in Warsaw would be very happy to meet or the victors. So it's or Mr. Babish. It's on the high level. There is a problem, but we will see. I mean, we have to let's prepare for the worst, which means that we have to stand up within Europe and hope for the best that Western Europe solve its problems. And just one sentence: deportation. I didn't say. It was Mr. Scholz who said. It was Mr. Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, who said, I totally agree with you that the best way is to cut benefits. Because in Germany, you can live without working as a German or as a refugee or migrant for years without touching one tool. So we have to cut this. But there are criminal gangs who are making profits. In their cases, it's different. So as I said, I just came back from not only Ethiopia but Somaliland too. We have to agree with certain African countries, and in Sweden, the Somali gangs are a very big problem. That if they don't behave and there is a sentence, they can have their sentence in Hargeisa instead of Stockholm, and they wouldn't be so brave. They wouldn't be so brave what they do in Sweden. If it's not a Swedish prison or a Norwegian prison, which are hotels, but the prison in Hargeisa or the prison in Berbera, because I can tell you that even the university is sometimes without air conditioning, and it's not easy there.
Okay. Two more brief questions on both of you gentlemen, then we have one or two questions later to the audience. You mentioned one very important thing, and this is like the threat from inside, which is represented by both the division of the society, because we clearly have two camps today, which obviously don't talk to each other, even I would say hate each other, and this makes the state and the society very vulnerable because always somebody from outside can trigger some sort of conflict by influencing one or encouraging one into the conflict with the other. And second question is like, do we have enough as a region, Central European region, and what I mean Central European is from Prague to Sofia and from Gdańsk to Athens. Do we have enough, let's say, industrial, scientific, and research resources to prepare on the security issue of the future? Because today you see there are like many countries, including my government, which is outgoing, is purchasing some very expensive military hardware, which is probably preparing for the war of the past, like I mean the F-35 military planes. So how do you see this, and what is the way out of this? Because clearly a country of 10 million people like Czech Republic can hardly build up by itself the research infrastructure, the production infrastructure for something like, let's say, the most up-to-date military hardware, which is some sort of like a air and drone and anti-missile defense and this sort of stuff. So what is your view on that?
Attila rightfully mentioned energy as a security issue at the beginning of his first speech, and battling the Brussels madness regarding all these Green New Deals and green initiatives is pretty important, because preserving our energy supplies, increasing our energy supplies is crucial for the future. One data center, my friends, is using the electricity of 100,000 households. You can imagine how many of these we need in order to be able to catch up with the technological advancement of the world. How much energy will they need, and how are we going to produce this energy? Because basically how an industry committed suicide is easy to see in Germany in the past 2 decades, because after the Fukushima accident, who had zero victims, 0 humans died because of the Fukushima accident, caused by a tsunami, caused by an enormous earthquake. Germany decided to close all of its nuclear factories and started buying electricity from Poland, made in coal plants, trying to save the planet. How are you saving the planet where you are importing electricity from Poland, which is made out of coal? What are you doing? What are you doing? And what is the chance of a tsunami in Germany? Come on. So battling all of this is very important, and looking for our national interests, like Hungary is doing, is very important. And to the previous question, working on regional initiatives, which Patrimonium Sancti Adalberti is constantly doing in the last years. Thank you, I salute you for that. And the Visegrad format and the 3Cs initiative, all of these are very important because they were somehow perceived as anti-European and then as an Eurosceptic. But as a capitalist, as a right-winger, I strongly believe that competition is good. So if the European Union sees some unions, other regional unions, as a competition, it might lead to improvement. It might lead to positive stress, to positive changes. So increasing the cooperation in regional formats of countries which are sticking to common sense and to their tradition and to their values and to their history is important, and it needs to grow and it needs to increase, and it can lead to better solutions within the whole European Union, like, for example, joint defense, mutual defense forces, improving our military expenses, optimizing our military expenses, and so on and so forth. So yes, regional alliances are good, and we should work on them. And by the way, thank you for doing that.
You want to say something? Okay. So now is the time for questions. Please, if you can raise your hand and briefly introduce yourself and ask very short question, please, because we have about 5 or 10 more minutes max. Yeah. Like, so any of you gentlemen.
Thank you. I'm from conservative.bg from Bulgaria. I have a question about the European Defense Force. It is not a technological or economical challenge to have European Defense Force. It is a political challenge because both Prague and Budapest have a history of some Union tanks rolling out on the streets if they don't comply. Who will make the decisions for this European Defense Force if it is happening?
You mean a European army? There will be no European army. So this is one of the federalist dreaming, which is absolutely useless and actually hurts the real things we can do. So we can work together on really strengthening European defense industry. And that's what we should do. Buy European. That's what Hungary is doing. We are buying mostly European. We are in cooperation with Rheinmetall. We are in cooperation, well, Turkey, you can say it's a European or half European country with Turkey. We are in cooperation with the Czech Republic, Aerovodohody.
Yes.
We invested into Aerovodohody, which is a maker of fantastic L-39NG training and
Training
night
planes.
attack plane. That's what we should do. We should go for the realistic. So these federalist dreams are just, we should do a European army. How? Who would lead the European army? Who would make the decisions where to employ the European army? What would countries contribute to it? How you would work together? What would be the language? These are not easy questions. NATO has worked on this for a long time, and still there is no NATO army. There are NATO armies which can cooperate and work together. There are certain standards, but still it's not an easy question. So yes, Europe should do more for its own defense. We should do more for a defense industrial base to be strong and competitive on the world market, competitive with US. Of course, we will never reach the US level. Again, don't dream. Dreaming does not help Europe. It just destroys Europe, because then we will always be frustrated. We didn't do this, we didn't do this. No, we have to be realistic, but we could do more. And as for more cooperation within the armies, yes, we can do that. Of course, more exercises, regional groupings, battle groups. We have V4 battle group. We could do this. We could employ them sometime, but it should be financed not by the countries, but then from EU budget. But it's extremely hard because we are not a federation. I personally don't see it as a realistic idea to be a federation, because we don't have the trust between each other. I mean, and why on earth Portugal would have the same geopolitical view than Estonia or Hungary? We have a different view than Estonia. I'm sorry. I understand your concerns. You don't understand my concerns. You say that your concerns are the only concerns. No, my dear friends in Tallinn, it's not only your worldview. It's our worldview, how we see the world. So that's the issue. Who decides which is who? Some bureaucrat in Brussels, oh, this is the way to do it? Or the European Parliament? Come on. If you look at the European Parliament and the level of the MPs there, I'm really pessimistic about the future of Europe. And anyway, just to be short.
Yeah, let me only briefly comment on that. This was the idea coming from France mainly. And what is it not in our interest? Because, I mean, as a Central European countries, because why we should fight some other's war? We already see it, where it led. We already have examples. As I give you an example. There was a Czech military deployment in Mali. What stakes does the Czech Republic have in Mali? Jesus Christ! Yeah? So this is a nonsense, utter nonsense, and we should, as Attila mentioned, we should completely reject it, because it federalized nonsense.
I'm also not federalizing stuff, and the European army is an impossible dream, so why bother dreaming about it? But cooperation within NATO, better cooperation inside NATO between European countries is always welcome, and that's something that we should call for our politicians to do, and something we should advocate about, for better cooperation within NATO and optimizing the expenses within NATO, and not building a European army as an alternative to NATO or as something different from NATO. We don't need that.
Okay, I'm being pointed out by the organizers that our time is up. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for the question. I'm sorry for the other.
A ja ďakujem pánovi Janskému za to, že nám moderoval tento panel. Teraz by som vás všetkých chcel pozvať na obed, ktorý bude trvať do 14:15, ale máme obed v dvoch režimoch. Pokiaľ ste si kúpili lístky na konzervatívny summit a máte v cene obed, tak obed pre vás je prichystaný tu vo foyer. Pokiaľ ste si kúpili lístky na konzervatívny summit a nie je v cene lístka zahrnutý obed, tak vás prosím, aby ste sa šli naobedovať do niektorej reštaurácie tu v centre Bratislavy. Takže ešte raz, kto máte v cene lístka na summit aj obed, tak obed je pre vás pripravený vo foyer. Stretneme sa 14:30 na ďalšom programe tu v Štúrovom salóne. Vďaka.